The general definition of communication is transferring meaning. Something in my mind transferring to your mind. Ideas being passed between two people. Within an organization, you could look at the purpose or function of communication related to member behavior. So within an organization, you're going to affect people's behavior through communication, both in terms of motivation and control. So you can motivate somebody with communication, and you can control what they do with communication. By control, you know, we're not from a management and organizational behavior standpoint. When we talk about control, it's like the four functions of management: planning, organizing, leading, and control. Controlling doesn't necessarily mean, you know, like micromanagement, forcing people to do things. Control is really the feedback loop. So you're asking someone to do something, and then you're checking whether or not it's being done, and you're making adjustments to the behavior of everyone in the organization to accomplish the goals and tasks that you've set out in your strategy, right? So controlling member behavior is about giving direction and providing accountability and feedback for the employees as to whether they're accomplishing their goals and whether things need to adjust or change to be flexible. So controlling member behavior is a huge part of communication. We kind of just assume that it takes place, right? In many ways, you're like, oh yeah, you know, we set up the plan, we're going to execute the plan, make it happen.
Yeah.
Rather than understanding that the key step to get from we have a plan to accomplishing the plan is communicating what people need to do in order to accomplish that plan, right? The execution, the implementation of a plan requires great communication, consistent and clear communication. This is something that I think a lot of organizations lack because they kind of skip over it. You know, we had a meeting, therefore it's done. Not necessarily, right? Just because you had a meeting and you have minutes from the meeting doesn't mean that everyone understood their role, their responsibilities, what they need to do, and that they won't be pulled off of that activity when other things pop up, right? So if you're going to communicate the priority of the tasks to be done, you have to communicate consistently on a day-to-day basis to rule out other possible actions that people are taking, because, you know, we say the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and what that means is anything that's making noise tends to get more attention than the most important things. Communication is required to make that happen, to maintain focus, which relates to motivation, right? You want to keep people on task, on point, on target, what they're supposed to be doing, and then motivate them, in which we talk about all the different forms of motivation, the content, reinforcement, the process, you know, autonomy, mastery, and control, the idea of theory X and theory Y. All of those motivation theories require some form of communication, good and bad communication, right? Some negative, some positive types of communication are included in the in forms of motivation. And then, you know, here it just makes the point of emotions. We all have emotions. We need to be able to appropriately and productively express those emotions. You know, if things are going well, you should be excited. If things are going poorly, you can be angry. But in neither case should you accuse or blame. You can address the problem when you're angry, or you can celebrate. And again, the way that you celebrate, are you doing it in a prideful way, or are you doing it in a team oriented way? All those things are part of communication. And then the last point we talked about in the last class about making decisions.
Yeah.
And communication is required to make good decisions. Communication is required to provide information needed to make good decisions. And by that, we mean, you know, if you think that you have all the knowledge, all the information necessary to make good decisions, good luck, because I can guarantee that the reason you have so many people around you is because you can't possibly understand or know everything that you need to know. But you want to foster a good culture of sharing information, which is encouraging certain types of communication.